Hello, and thank you for watching Fighting Fraud. Normally, we give this class at the Senior Center in person, but given everything that's going on, we're going to go ahead and do the online version of it today. So my name is Daisy Torres. I'm the Iowa City Police Department's Community Outreach Assistant, and this is going to cover a few different topics regarding online scams, but with the focus on scams that tend to target folks in the older populations. So kind of the agenda for what we're talking about today. Going to give a brief introduction about me and the department. We're going to go over some of the basics. We're going to review the different types of scams, and we're going to give you some tips on how to protect yourself. Again, my name is Daisy Torres. I'm the Community Outreach Assistant for the Iowa City Police Department. I am under the Community Outreach Division, which if we go ahead and look here, the department has a lot of different specialties. It's supported through the support services. Our field operations is where all our patrol and investigators kind of reside. Under support services, we have animal services as well, community outreach, some of our station masters and various chaplains. We also have our record tech. The department has about 85 sworn officers and about 30 non-sworn employees. We have 2 canines and they're on different shifts. Our community outreach officer is actually one of those canine handlers. They're both drug sniffing and bite dogs. We're going to go over some of the things that maybe some of you have heard of and some of you haven't. One of them is phishing. So phishing is a type of cybercrime that involves individuals posing as representatives from legitimate institutions in attempts to access identifiable information such as banking or credit card information and passwords. Any sort of loss of this information will normally lead to theft or identity loss. Spoofing is disguising an unknown source as a trusted familiar source. People can do this with emails, phone numbers, websites. We're going to go ahead and watch a video that kind of shows how exactly that works and what spoofing is.
It's called spoofing. Telemarketers calling from a number that looks a lot like yours, same area code and even the same first few digits, trying to get your personal information, promising free cruises and warranties. And now scammers are doing it too.
Criminals realize that you're more apt to answer your phone if they call from an area code that you're in. And even more crazy, they can actually make the call look like it's coming from somebody you already know.
They can actually mimic somebody's phone number now.
Absolutely. So for example, I can call somebody and make it look like you're calling them.
You said you will be able to call my producer, Giovanna, who's actually just off camera right over there. Hi, Giovanna. You can call her from your phone,
yes,
posing as me.
Absolutely.
We aren't showing you how he does it, but seconds later.
There it is. It says Jeff Rawson work. It's your picture. This is literally what happens when you call me. I would see this and 100% think it was you.
That is crazy. And by the way, everybody, this is my phone.
Yeah.
We called from your phone, not mine. Then he ramps it up, showing us what a real criminal would do, and calls my mom as me, again from his phone.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Mom, real quick, I need your social security number and fill out some beneficiary forms. Can you help me out real quick?
What?
I've got this beneficiary form. I just need to fill it out. What's your social security number real fast? Great. Thanks a lot, Mom. Love you.
And now you have it.
That's it. I've got her social security number.
Think it can't happen to you? Even the chairman of the FCC has been spoofed. What is the FCC doing now to stop this, to protect me?
A few different things. Number one, we are empowering phone companies to block robocalls that appear to be spoofed with no legitimate purpose. Number two, we are taking aggressive action against robocallers. And number three, we're working with the industry to develop more technological solutions.
In the meantime, experts say apps like Mr. Number and True Caller can help, alerting you to spoofed calls. But the best advice, never give personal information over the phone unless you made the call yourself. That wasn't even from my phone. He was just posing as me.
You're kidding.
Because you never know who's on the other end. Jeff Rawson, NBC News, San Diego.
Hey, NBC News fans.
As you can see, there's a lot of trickiness that happens with some of these scams, and because they do their best to look legitimate, there might be a time where you might have to slow down and think, would my company for gas or electricity, cell phone, whatever it may be, ask for this type of information? And the following video is showing the impact of how much money is actually lost through these types of scams just here in the US.
Out of that massive bust, the FBI charging 80 people with trying to scam at least $46 million out of their victims by using fake online romance schemes or hacking businesses. ABC's Clayton Sandell has more on the story. Good morning, Clayton.
Hey, good morning to you, Amy. We have all gotten those bogus emails from a certain Nigerian prince who promises to share his vast fortune as long as you give him your bank account number. Well, investigators say these schemes are now becoming more sophisticated and expensive, costing victims in this case millions of dollars. This morning, 14 people accused of financial fraud are in real handcuffs, busted by federal agents. This takedown in Los Angeles, part of what investigators say is an international organized crime ring targeting everyday people and corporations, stealing $6 million, trying to get away with $40 million more.
We believe this is one of the largest cases of its kind in U.S. history.
Here's how authorities say it worked. Investigators say the alleged con men went online, targeting the brokenhearted and elderly. One using a romance scheme to convince a 48-year-old Florida widow he was a military doctor stationed overseas. She wired him $87,000, telling the FBI she considered suicide when she learned the truth.
The Nigerians are famous in variations of that scam, whether it be romance, whether it be targeting the elderly, getting them to send money, to send bank information so they can ultimately steal money from a bank account.
32 victims in all, including an 87-year-old woman suffering from dementia, tricked out of more than $500,000. Other schemes stole from dozens of businesses.
The fraudsters will often hack a company's email system, impersonate company personnel, and direct payments to bank accounts that funnel money back to the fraudsters in Nigeria.
Officials say those 14 people arrested are just the tip of the iceberg. 80 people in all were named in the indictment, but most of those are overseas in Nigeria. Half a dozen suspects, though, are still on the run here in the U.S. Amy?
All right, Clayton Sandell, thank you so much.
All right, now we're going to go ahead and dive into specific scams. We're going to cover 8 today. But if you have any questions, I'm going to leave my contact info in the end about any specifics or about any other types of scams. Please feel free to reach out, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So, IRS impersonators, this scam is the one that's the most common among Americans. That came from various Senate reports and surveys done by the Pew Research Center. So, con artists can find a lot of ways to give themselves credibility. They can spoof or fake the IRS's phone number and might even know part of your social to, again, give themselves more credibility. They threaten to call the police and demand immediate payment. I know for a fact that Iowa City Police Department and surrounding departments do not work with the IRS in those capacities. We've never gotten a call saying that from the IRS saying that this person hasn't paid us back, so they need to go to jail. That's not how it works. If the government wanted to contact you, they would send something in the mail first. They'll also never ask for credit cards, numbers, or a social security number over the phone. When you get the bill in the mail about you owing taxes, you always have the opportunity to appeal or question the amount. So things that normally entice that quick response because it's fueled by fear or uncertainty or confusion, those are the types of scams that usually get money because they focus on those fears. So if something is demanding payment and they want immediate action from you, it's probably fair to say that it's not a real agency.
Scam artists are pretending to be IRS officials to get your money. They'll call, email, or text you, claiming you owe back taxes or there's a problem with your tax return. They even rig caller ID to make the call look official. They play on your fears. They threaten to take your driver's license or sue, arrest, or deport you. They want you to pay fast. What's the truth? The truth is, the IRS's first contact with you will always be a letter in the mail. It's not a phone call, email, or text message. They won't insist that you pay with a prepaid debit card, a wire transfer, or cashier's check. Now you know. Has an IRS imposter contacted you? Report it at ftc.gov/imposters.
For most of these scams, the Federal Trade Commission or the FTC is actually a very good resource to go ahead and check information on. There's a good chance that if you're getting something, other people have too, and they would have reported it either to the FTC or some states, their attorney generals. They're aware of these sort of problems and also have something on their site to report these things. So if you ever have any specific questions about IRS impersonators or any other scam we talk about today, there's tons of valuable information the FTC also has. So looking ahead at email extortion, the messages are usually generic, poorly worded, and there's many grammatical errors. There's also a short deadline attached to your response because, again, they want to incite panic and they want people to do what they want without thinking through it. In these cases, don't reply to the emails, and if a password is included, stop using it. If you Google keywords used in the email, sometimes you'll also find that people have reported it. So again, making sure that you slow it down, you think it through, and you check where these emails are coming from. So we have two examples here. This one, they are very blunt and they tell you that they're from China. They'll usually say that they've downloaded some sort of malware into your device and they have a video of you doing something. And the fact that they're asking for euros being transferred through to Bitcoins, that's a red flag that this is not something legitimate. Half the time they're just trying to scare you in the hopes that they will send something to you. And they're also fond of saying they have very particular videos of you doing something. And if you know you're not that type of person, then you definitely don't have anything to worry about. Another example includes someone's password. So this person may have gotten the password off of the dark web or somehow got a hold of leaked passwords a company had. And once they get a hold of those, it's a lot easier for them to, again, give themselves that credibility for you to go ahead and give them money because you think they'll actually be able to do what they're saying they're going to do. All right, so by now you've probably received some notice about filling out the census. If you haven't responded recently, you'll most likely get a paper copy of the survey sent in the mail soon. If you get a survey that asks for your social security numbers, bank information, or other sensitive information, just know it's not a real census survey. In some areas, government volunteers serving as census takers will knock on doors. They should not be asking for social security numbers or bank or credit card numbers or any sort of payment information, just how it is for the survey. And anyone that's asking for payment for their time for being there or postage for the forms, they're not a real person with the census. So regardless of you get a phone call also claiming to be from the census, the census shouldn't be contacting you if you've gone ahead and filled out the survey. The only time they would be coming to you is if you've ignored all their reminders. If you've ignored all their reminders about filling it out, then they'll go ahead and send someone in person to your residence. They also shouldn't be asking when you'd be home, if you leave your garage door unlocked or anything like that. They should be pretty straight to the point, and they all have a standard look as well. So if they don't have any sort of identifying badge, they'll normally have a little satchel or bag that has census logo on it. If they don't have any of that, then there's a good chance that this person isn't actually working for the census. And we're going to go ahead and watch another quick video that kind of wraps up what I just said.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census Bureau does a national head count. They also do smaller surveys in years not ending in a zero, and scammers are also counting. Here are 5 ways to not get taken by a census scam. Verify that a census taker who comes to your home is legitimate. They should have a Census Bureau photo ID badge and a copy of the letter the Bureau sent you. Confirm that the questionnaire you've received is on the Census Bureau's official list of household or business surveys. Check that your census mailing has a return address of Jeffersonville, Indiana. Don't give your Social Security, mother's maiden name, or banking info to someone claiming to be from the Census Bureau. Genuine census reps won't ask for that information. Don't reply, click, or open attachments in a suspicious census email. For more tips on how to avoid scams, go to aarp.org/FraudWatchNetwork and make sure to tune in to RFD TV the third Thursday of each month for Rural America Live with AARP.
Okay, the grandparent scam. This scam has a very particular procedure. Half the time, the victim will get a call, usually in the middle of the night, saying that their grandchild is in some sort of trouble. They're in jail, they got into an accident, maybe as crazy as they killed someone, and they could also have someone else calling you to act as a figure of authority. So it's their lawyer, it's the policeman that's in charge of the jail, it's whoever else they can think of. They use emotions in these cases to get a fast reaction out of people. They can also get a few specific pieces of information about your grandchild from social media, but they won't have all the details. If you ever get a call like this, never say your grandchild's name. Wait for them to say it, because once you give them that, then they're going to know who they're supposed to be. And that's not something that they should have. But again, the sense of urgency is what drives people to delivering the money, because there's a special love between a grandparent and a grandchild, and they always want them to be safe. Here's a video of someone that actually fell for it and how he hopes he would have reacted differently.
The government is releasing new information about a growing scam targeting older Americans. It tricks people into mailing cash to people pretending to be their grandchildren. Victims reportedly lose an average of $9,000. The Federal Trade Commission says Americans lost up to $41 million in the scam this year, nearly twice as much as last year. Anna Werner spoke with an unlikely target who nearly lost thousands of dollars.
I'm the last person I thought would ever fall for a scam like this.
You're the last person.
Last.
Retired Tennessean Frank Stratton spent his career working in intelligence, first for the Air Force, later as a cybersecurity programmer. But his expertise still didn't prepare him for the scam that began with a morning phone call in April.
I hear, don't be afraid, but I'm the public defender from Austin, Texas. They have put your grandson in jail after a wreck, and he has a DUI offense.
The man said Stratton could bail out his grandson if he sent $8,500 cash via FedEx, something that might sound ridiculous, except that Stratton had actually done just that for a family member once in the past. Not only that, but the attorney briefly put his grandson, who sounded injured, on the phone. So Stratton drove to the bank.
I wrote a check out, and they gave me $8,500 cash in hundreds.
Then he went to a local mail location to overnight the money to an Austin, Texas address.
You know, a lot of people right now are sitting at home going, how could you fall for that?
Well, it's because of the way that they scripted it. They had it so well scripted. They knew everything about my grandson. They knew everything about me.
He's not the only victim. The Federal Trade Commission says people 70 and older are increasingly being scammed, and the criminals do their research, sometimes using social media to learn more about their targets. The FTC's Monica Vaca.
Grandparents really care about their grandchildren. The grandchildren sound like they're in terrible distress. They're crying. They say that they've been injured frequently, and they're begging their grandparent to help them.
But back in Tennessee that night in April, Stratton says,
my wife and I looked at each other and said, scam.
Just like that.
Just like that. Boom.
So he called FedEx to have the package returned. And while he got his money back...
I'm a security person, and that's what really frustrates me. Because I fell for it.
Even you fell for it.
Because of love.
Something Stratton says every grandparent can fall victim to. For CBS This Morning, Anna Werner in New York.
Well, he's sharing an important warning. He sure is. And also, they've gotten so sophisticated, you can see why he maybe fell for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The FTC warns, if you receive a call like this, get in touch with that family member or friend before sending anything. And be careful about what you post on social media, because scammers can use all of those details to create that compelling narrative.
Moving on to health insurance. So these types of scams get more popular when healthcare is in the news and on consumers' minds. So for example, it might be something that's happening now because of the current situation we're all in. And it's also very popular during annual open enrollment periods for the Affordable Care Act and Medicare. So the claims for these types of scams usually say that a plan is licensed under ISERA, so the Federal Employee Retirement Income Security Act. Insurance companies are licensed by the state, not by any federal body. A plan requires you to join an association or union to get covered. These may be fake organizations designed to create the illusion that you're buying from a group health insurance. So again, do some research before you go ahead and say yes to any of this, especially if someone just calls you randomly. Someone contacting you about health coverage claims to be from the government. And no government representative will ever try to sell you insurance. Government people are busy and it's not part of their job description. So in reality, sales calls that you'll get like this are often false, or they're just terrible healthcare plans that are not going to leave you with anything other than some regret.
There is a robocall making the rounds offering healthcare deals from names you know.
Yeah, it turns out those deals don't exist. Shocker, right? And it could cost you your personal information in the process. Here's Mike Holfeld with this week's Schemes and Ripoffs.
I'm calling to let you know that we have been granted a limited health enrollment period for a few weeks.
News 6 has learned the latest robocall messages hitting the U.S. are using health insurance as the big hook.
Believe it or not, there's one small set of numbers in New Jersey that accounted for 250 million health insurance scam calls last month.
Alex Calici, CEO of Umail.com, says the 201 area code is a front for call operations that could be operating anywhere but New Jersey.
They're not in New Jersey. I'm pretty sure they're overseas or in some random call center. That's just the numbers they're using.
Those 201 calls are part of a robo-wave connecting in the Orlando area. According to the Umail Index, local residents are averaging, listen to this, nearly 40 robocalls a month. And leading the way, those great health insurance deals.
And what's the pitch, Alex?
So we can get you cheaper health insurance. In order to do that, we need to see if you're eligible. Can we have some information? Your social security number, your address, all this stuff to help, sign you up or see if you're eligible.
Do they mention a company when they say, hey, we've got a great deal for you, lower rates?
They actually seem to act like a broker more, like, oh, we have deals with all these different companies.
We have pre-approvals ready in your area, including Cigna, Blue Cross, Aetna, United, and many more.
The other big health insurance scam now is about there's a problem with your payments. We need your credit card immediately or it's going to lapse and you're not covered. Those are the two big scams that we see.
Mike Holfeld, News 6.
Sweepstakes and lottery scams. So again, because of social media, these types of scams can come in many different forms. It can come as a postcard, a call, a notification from Facebook, or an email saying that you won the big prize. In 2018, the Federal Trade Commission received 132,470 reports of scams involving prizes, sweepstakes, and lotteries that swindled the unwary out of $118 million. The median loss was about $530. You'll be asked to pay a fee, taxes, or custom duties to claim your prize. If you won something you never registered for, it's likely you didn't win anything. So keep that in mind if someone ever comes out randomly out of the blue saying you've won something, because if they're making you pay to get your prize, then I don't think there is a prize.
The Better Business Bureau is out with a new warning about sweepstakes, lottery, and prize schemes. Experts say scammers are using ever-changing methods to steal your money, and seniors are the most frequent targets. Here's Anna Werner.
They said, congratulations, Mr. Walker, you have won the Jamaica sweepstake.
Alan Walker had just moved to St. Louis in 2015 when the call came in on his cell phone, telling him he'd won $94,000. It would be delivered soon, and all he had to do was send them a fee for taxes.
They kept on telling me, oh, well, you took the wrong route. He'll be there soon. Just wait.
Walker sent them 2 checks totaling $5,500, all his savings. They didn't show up with the prize. Then he got repeated calls to send money to different people. And that's when he realized it was a scam.
Wow, I really feel kind of empty inside and ridiculous that I got, beat like that.
Steve Baker is the lead investigator for the Better Business Bureau.
Most of the people that are cold calling you are from either Jamaica or Costa Rica.
Baker says nearly 3,000 people reported sweepstakes and lottery scams to the BBB's scam tracker in 2017. That same year, the FTC and the FBI combined received more than 145,000 complaints about the scams. Losses topped over $100 million. The BBB's study says scammers contact their victims to get their personal information every way they can, through cold calling, text messages, internet pop-ups, the mail, and social media like Facebook.
The fact that they've really migrated to social media means there's a huge new audience that's being introduced to these.
Facebook told us in a statement these scams violate our policies. We have a dedicated team and automated systems to help detect and block these kinds of scams. Baker encourages relatives and friends of older consumers to help them avoid becoming fraud victims by educating them.
If you think you've won a lottery or sweepstakes and somebody wants money for taxes or for a third party or for any other reason, they're crooks. Do not send money.
Anna Werner, CBS News, New York.
So social media makes its way into these again. So while companies do their best at handling our data, sometimes other companies are not as great at it. Because of this, it's easy for Facebook or Instagram to find out what you've been Googling and show you results that match your searches. For example, I recently got engaged and I Googled wedding venues out of curiosity. And now my newsfeed is just all wedding stuff. Advertisements that pop up, anything sponsored, it's all directed at people that are getting married because they, again, want to sell their stuff. Some of those ads I know are for services or goods that may not be the quality that they advertise, and they aren't legitimate. For example, I got an ad pop up saying that I could buy a 14-karat diamond ring for about $200. I don't think that's a very legitimate advertisement, and I don't think it's the quality that they're saying it will be. There are also scams that involve strangers on the internet trying to befriend you, and once they do that, they'll go ahead and try to ask you for money or some other type of information from you. It's those types of scams that come from the internet that can also be very sneaky because someone you think is your friend is not, especially if they're just popping out of the blue. Scams can also be very tailored to what we have about ourselves on social media. So if you are a hardcore Vikings or Bears fan, some scams might try to sell you some memorabilia or something about one of those teams, and it wouldn't be anything legitimate. So here are two screenshots that actually happened to one of our officers. So we're going to go ahead and realize that it says right here that it logged in using a phone from Nigeria. So Sandra Smith logged in on a phone from Nigeria, but you would notice that her picture does not look like someone that lives in Nigeria. So she starts off with, "Hello, how are you doing?" And slowly and surely we find out that she is indeed not Sandra Smith, and our officer realizes very quickly it's a scam. So these kinds of things happen to anyone. You don't have to be someone that's new to Facebook. It can be the teen that's always on their phone to the adult that constantly posts things about their baby. It's really non-discriminatory here. And finally, because of everything that's going on, people always try to take advantage with the uncertain timelines and lingering confusions. It's something that people will use to their advantage. Some people may call asking to verify bank information for you to receive a stimulus check. That should not be happening. If you filed 2018 or 2019 taxes, then you don't have to do anything. If you haven't, there's a website that's a .gov address with the IRS to learn more information on how to about how to do that. There are also companies that are selling bogus treatments and making miraculous claims. If you get emails from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention or the World Health Organization claiming to have links with up-to-date information, ignore them. They aren't sending out mass emails. Instead, go to their website for the newest information and the stuff that's up to date. Along with the checks, Some might say they can get you early access to the money you're going to be getting, and they're targeting those that may be having the most financial hardship. So just know that there is no way to have early access to the money because the timeline's a bit vague. And those that are saying they can do that for you are lying and are really just trying to get money out of you. So here is an example email that someone got from the supposed World Health Organization. This is not happening. It's not a real email from them, although it does have their logo. That's about it. Half the time, anything that comes in with a link, especially if it's some sort of email like this where it looks a bit generic, it's not anything good. It could either be something that's a genuine virus being downloaded onto your device, or it's just signing you up to be targets for way more scams, and that's not something you want either. So here are some tips now that we know kind of what it all looks like. So unless you called that person or the company, don't give them your personal information. If there's a sense of urgency, slow down and think it through, because that's the response they want from you to get the money. Never click links and emails unless you're positive it's legitimate. Tighten your privacy settings on your social media. If you suspect a hacking of an account, change your password. This one I cannot stress enough. If you have any sort of inkling that your password or your account may have been compromised, change it, because that's the best way to keep yourself safe. Also, don't be afraid to tell someone. It happens to the best of us. If you think you may have fallen for a scam or you may have received a scam, that's the best way to verify it is one, is if you go ahead and run it by someone else. Also, check the Iowa Attorney General's and Federal Trade Commission's website, because there's plenty of good information on there too about reporting and should you lose money on what to do.
This is you. You've been ripped off, or you've spotted a scam. Don't keep it to yourself. Take it to the Federal Trade Commission by filing a complaint. What kind of complaint? The Federal Trade Commission is the nation's consumer protection agency. So if a business doesn't deliver on its promises, or if someone cheats you out of your money, the Federal Trade Commission wants to hear about it.
I bought a phone card with 350 minutes of calling time, but it cut me off after 20.
I'm getting bills for things I didn't buy. I think someone stole my identity.
Letter said I won a sweepstakes, but I had to wire money to cover the taxes. I did, and never heard from them again.
I responded to an ad online for a free trial offer, but then I started seeing charges for it every month.
I thought the email was from someone who saw my resume and wanted to hire me, but they asked for my bank account number. I reported it to the Federal Trade Commission.
Telling the Federal Trade Commission helps us stop rip-offs, scams, and fraudsters. Your complaints matter here. To file a complaint, just go to ftc.gov/complaint and answer the questions. Or call 1-877-FTC-HELP. That's all there is to it. If you've been ripped off or scammed, complain to the Federal Trade Commission. It can help put the bad guys out of business.
So again, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to go ahead and contact me. This is my information. I'm available at both the phone, which is my office phone, and the cell phone number. I'm most responsive to email just because I'm constantly checking it. If it's the weekend or if it's after about 4 or 5, I won't be paying much attention to the cell phone. But if you do email me, I'll make sure to get back to you right away. But again, if you have any other questions, concerns, you want to learn about something else fraud-wise, please reach out to me. And I hope you all have a good rest of the day.